conversation do you want people to know about, and why is the issue important to you?
I'm really excited about the Indigenous Environmental Network. I'm an Indigenous person. I also think that for all of my friends and community that aren't from Indigenous backgrounds, we're starting to see now more than ever that if we continue to erase Indigenous intelligence, it affects all of us because we can't take care of our world. We used to think of Indigenous rights as things that just pertain to like some land far over somewhere that didn't affect us. And now we're starting to see that it affects everything, our food, our water, our air, and our daily lives. So it's super near and dear to my heart. And I also think it should be super near and dear to all of our hearts.
What was the most memorable, hilarious, or embarrassing moment you've experienced during a live performance?
There are so many embarrassing, hilarious live performance moments in my life, probably in many performers' lives, but the one that comes to mind for me is I was playing a set on an electric guitar that I didn't know had these tuning knots on the bottom where the strings kept slipping out of tune. So every time that I would play a chord, the guitar would slip out of tune. So in the middle of the first song, I had to ask someone in the audience to give me their guitar, and then they gave me their guitar. But if you've ever played an instrument that's not yours, it's like driving a car that's not yours. You could do it, but it's not like you want to like take your friends for a ride in that car. So throughout the entire show, I was sort of just like stopping on the wrong chord, trying to story tell my way through things, but luckily I won that crowd over, and it was endearing and charming in its out of tune, awkward way.
If you had to create a soundtrack for your life, which 3 songs would you include and why?
Every time someone asks a question about what's your favorite song, what's the soundtrack of your life song, or something like that, my brain explodes and I get really, really upset because I feel like it's impossible. But if I had to create a soundtrack for my life, and I only had 3 songs to do it, it would be Is It a Crime by Sade, because that is the first chapter of my life, like a very moody, sort of tortured love era of my existence. And then the middle era of my existence would be Do the Astral Plane by Flying Lotus, because it encapsulates a whole chapter of my life where I found all of this other music that I felt like was expanding my consciousness and also just groovy and fun and inspiring, and that was a huge part of my life. And then it would be Castles Made of Sand by Jimi Hendrix, because it just sums up the feeling of how temporary but eternal life is for me.
Yeah. If you had the power to change one thing about the music industry, what would it be and why?
Conversations about how to change or expand or help the music industry are very meta conversations, because for me, I think the roots of the music industry and why we're dealing with so many flaws now reveal that the foundation of the music industry comes from a time when, you know, bootlegging and these secret private clubs and ways that people would go have fun in these secret sinful ways were also connected to like gangsters and lawless experiences. And so all of the artists and people that were managed the same way that people would like bootleg liquor, like, you know, and from the jump, artists were just like these assets, these products, instead of being humans that provide connection. So it's hard to say what I would change about the music industry, but if I could go back into the canals of time, or if I could some way change it now, it would be, if we're gonna be this lawless community of people, because being a musician and loving music is so much like that, it's like existing out of the laws that limit us. If we could do that in a together format, so that those that are representing the musicians and those that are producing and marketing and distributing the musicians understand that we're all in that lawless experience together, and therefore creating our own world instead of having this divide and conquer strategy that keeps us all fighting each other in a lack mentality.
Last question. If you could work with one artist who has passed on, who would it be and why?
If I could work with one artist who's passed on, I do think it would be Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, there's just something about certain artists where even just the tone of their chords or the tone of their voice, you can feel that there's no replacement for that person in the eternity of time. And I feel like for me, every time I hear a chord that Jimi Hendrix has played or hear his voice or a word that he's spoken, I know that to sit in that room and experience that would shift my being in ways that no other amazing artist that I look up to would. It would definitely be Jimi Hendrix.